Hello everyone, I am the Enforcer, and welcome to the breaking news. Today's breaking news is that a Ukrainian drone strike has occurred on the Mozdok airfield, one of the first ever seen in this region within the Russian Federation, and the first to ever be conducted on this airfield as well. From what we understand, Ukrainian Lyudy long-range drones were used to conduct this strike, and we were able to see a very close-up clip here of the Lyudy drone. You see the drone flying over the camera person and heading on its way towards the Mozdok airfield. We can hear sporadic rifle fire coming from the ground in an attempt to shoot down the Lyudy before it can make it to its target, but that was in vain, as the drone would then later hit the airfield, knocking out several vital aircraft, from what we understand at the moment. Meanwhile, we were also able to get a second video clip showing the drone attack from another angle. There we can see the Lyudy once again going at full speed, funnily enough, over the fields near the area of the Mozdok airfield. We now see it making a sharp turn, heading directly towards the camera people. Now we can see it continuing on out of range. We hear a sporadic rifle fire. And we can see the drone almost moving out of camera range. And we can now see the drone once again at a more considerable distance. The rifle fire picking up significantly. It appears to be making a sharp turn. And then the last the camera could see, it appears to have also gone into a very steep dive. We hear rifle fire still ongoing in the distance, as the drone has now made it either down onto the airfield, and it has hit. And the anti-air fire then immediately subsides, ending our clip. The Mozdok airfield is one of the larger and more important air bases that the Russian Federation has within the southern region of the Russian Federation. From what we understand, its strategic airlift wing of IL-76s, as well as a strategic helicopter airlift wing, are both stationed at this airfield. While this does not sound like it will pertain directly to the Ukrainian war effort, considering that strategic airlift wings have rarely been used in the continuance of the war, we do understand that strategic airlift wings like these have been used in limited form in the past by the Russian Federation to conduct emergency resupplies of major logistics hubs that are near to the area of the front lines. So these IL-76s, in theory, would take off from Mozdok, fly to an airfield inside of Russia that has vital supplies, and then fly those to an area like Belgrade or Kursk or even Rostov-on-Don, so that way they were far more forward on the supply chain than they would have been if they had to be transported by the normal route of train, which would take far longer than an emergency aircraft transport. This means that in a limited sense, the Ukrainians are striking some very rare and very vital components of the Russian logistics system that allows for the Russian supply effort to pretty much be a quick reaction force of its own, responding to tough situations wherever they exist on the front lines. Although, I will say that we've very rarely ever seen IL-76s or any other kind of airlift wings being wildly used throughout the war. It does seem that they reserve these only for the most desperate of situations, and it appears that they will probably have a lot less of them to work with in desperate situations going forward. This is also an incredibly far range away from Ukraine, and especially from the occupied areas right now. If we were to measure out this area towards the front line of Ukraine, that is about a 500-mile strike that just occurred. It is the deepest that we've ever seen a drone strike by Ukraine occur in southern Russia. We have seen drone strikes from Ukrainian forces occurring deep inside of Russia near to the Urals mountain ranges, but those have become fairly common over the past. But we've never seen Ukrainian drone attacks being focused down in the very southern area of the Don region of the Russian Federation. The closest that we've ever seen an attack of this kind get was near the Armavir radar station, which was about a distance of 300 miles, meaning that this attack on Mozdok airfield was an entire 200 miles further than the last attack that occurred inside of the Don. It is showing that Ukrainian drone forces may also be attempting to create a larger drone campaign within the area of the Don, an area that is, while a little bit detached from Ukraine, still strategically important for the Russian Federation and the continuation of the Ukrainian war effort. It does appear that they're going to be attempting to knock out these bases and destroy them. We also believe that since this is a base that houses a strategic airlift wing, and these are heavier aircraft, that they may begin a campaign against the larger aircraft of the Russian Federation, including the Ingles airbase, which once again may be attacked, so that way they can try and knock out Russian strategic bombers like the Tu-160 and the Tu-95 that have been used for some considerable time to attack Ukraine with cruise and ballistic missiles fired from under the aircraft. Moving on from this little bit of news and on into our next bit outside of the Russian Federation, we were also able to hear that around the area of Mykolaiv, videos are going wild and videos are going incredibly viral as we have seen this Yak-52 again attempting to intercept and shoot down drones. We've seen this Yak-52 before over the skies of Odessa quite a while ago, but since then, we haven't really seen it much. But today, over the skies of Mykolaiv, a Russian Zala drone was actually engaged again by the Yak-52 as it planned to shoot the drone down. Here is some footage of the Yak-52 flying past the Zala drone. And we see our pilot and co-pilot here, and we see the co-pilot fidgeting around as the Zala's camera continues to stay fixed on the aircraft. But here is a little bit of a better picture of the Yak-52. We can actually see that this thing has now been outfitted with a camouflage pattern. It's a pretty modernized looking one, fairly similar to a Swedish camouflage pattern, or really a Ukrainian camouflage pattern, if you want to call it that. Really an Eastern European camouflage layout. We also got to see one more picture, once again, of the cockpit, and we can see the co-pilot once again looking directly at the drone while the pilot continues to fly the aircraft. We have not really seen these a lot, and I do have to keep in mind that this is the only Yak-52 that we have seen in the entire war. But it is incredibly interesting to see pretty much a post-World War II trainer. I believe those started to be used around 1947. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But it is an incredibly old trainer aircraft, and the fact that these things are being used is pretty wild to see by Ukraine. But once again, any air defense is better than no air defense, and so it is quite innovative, however quite old at the same time. Meanwhile, we got to hear that the Ukrainian mayor collaborator of the city of Kupiansk, which was liberated by the Ukrainians a while ago, that had also fled Kupiansk once it was retaken, and it moved to the city of Stary Oskil inside of Belgrade, has been shot by a Ukrainian partisan group and has been urgently flown to Moscow for medical care. The direct quote that we have is a pro-Kremlin media report that the mayor collaborator of Kupiansk, Mozdok, was shot in front of his home in Stary Oskil, but he survived. It is noted that he was urgently hospitalized in Moscow. Mozdok, who fled to Russia, had recently worked as a director of a sports complex in Stary Oskil, which is showing that apparently the Ukrainians are once again going after Ukrainian collaborators and making sure to try and send a message that other Ukrainians should not collaborate with the enemy, otherwise they will be tracked down and they will be hunted down by the Ukrainian special forces or by Ukrainian partisans inside of Russia or anywhere else in the world. Meanwhile, while all of that's going on inside of Kyiv, we were also able to hear the unfortunate news that about 50% of the power generation capacity of Ukraine has been destroyed by the Russian Federation. Nearly 73% of the large thermal power plants have been destroyed and damaged, along with other hydroelectric power plants that are out of operation. This is going to be causing some considerable issues for the Ukrainian energy infrastructure, considering that to keep their nation running, they're largely going to have to be importing energy from the rest of the grid inside of Europe. Whether that's possible or not is an entirely other question, but once again, air defense is crucially important as air defense will ensure that the remaining 50% of energy production in Ukraine will be insulated from Russian attack and that the Ukrainians will be able to continue largely their normal operations of their electrical and military industry as long as those electrical power plants are no longer attacked and destroyed by Russian efforts. However, that may become a little bit more difficult in the future, as we have heard that a new Iskander brigade is being formed inside of inside of Belarus. We are hearing that it's being explicitly outfitted with Iskanders, and it has 2 new hangars that are being built on the territory of the military unit in Osipovичи, similar to the shelters for Iskanders. And abandoned barracks are also being constructed as well, and we can actually see the montage here over time leading up to the present day, and we can clearly see that construction efforts have been moving forward. Foundations have been laid, shelters are being built, barracks are also being constructed additionally, and it does appear that, from what we can understand, they will most likely be attempting to fire Iskanders once again from the territory of Belarus. We do not understand if this is a attachment of the Belarusian armed forces or whether this is an attachment of the Russian armed forces. We are assuming that this is the latter, and if that is the case, we could end up seeing that the Russians attempt to attack Ukrainian infrastructure from the north, again, which Ukrainian air defenses really aren't geared for fighting a northerly facing air defense battle. They are more so equipped to fight a easternly faced air defense battle. That's how we've ended up structuring most of the air defense in Ukraine, and for that reason, defending from Belarusian attacks would be a little bit more difficult, and the Russians would be able to pose a major risk, once again, to Ukrainian critical infrastructure and possibly knock some out. That is why it's very important for the Ukrainians to have a constant supply of new surface-to-air missile systems and anti-air defense systems arriving inside the country, because the more that they have, the better they're able to insulate against all directions of attacks. Eventually, the Ukrainian plan is that they will have an air defense perimeter that exists in the northern region of Ukraine, the eastern region of Ukraine, and across the southern region of Ukraine as well, near to the area of Odessa and Mykolaiv. This will provide them a shield to completely insulate and protect all Ukrainian critical infrastructure behind the lines, which would significantly improve their position in the current war effort. But with that, that is all of the major breaking news that we have for today. I've got to thank every single one of y'all once again for watching, and if y'all have enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and support us on Patreon. The link is in the description below. It makes us incredibly happy when people subscribe. Funnily enough, it actually doesn't help out in the algorithms at all, so there's really no reason to hit the subscribe button unless you just wanted to really show us that you like the channel. But hey, we love to see people subscribing, and it makes us really happy. Not only that, if you hit the like button, it does help the video out a little bit to get out to further audiences, and if you comment, it kind of helps out a little bit too. But honestly, I just like to see what y'all have to say down in the comment section and get to read it every once in a while. But with that, thank you all so much once again for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.